Married to PIX11 Ben Aaron is not an easy task. I'm just kidding. But it does make our next guest part of our family. Ginger Zee's job as chief meteorologist for ABC News takes her across the country, covering weather for Good Morning America and also climate stories for the network. Many watched as she shared fancy footwork, of course, while competing on just a little known show called Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, but there is so much more to this mother of two, which she shares in her new book. It's called A Little Closer to Home. Please welcome back meteorologist and best-selling author, Ginger Zee. Good morning, Ginger.
Thank you. Good morning, y'all. I'm so happy to be here, and I loved the open because, Dan, you chuckled, but it's true. Why do you think I wrote books on mental health? You know my husband.
I know. And by the way, congratulations on this. This is your second book addressing mental health, and it's a conversation I love to have. So looking back, though, at your first book, Ginger, Natural Disaster, the opening line actually reads, 10 days before I started my job at ABC News, I checked myself into a mental health hospital. Now, I know you've told this story before, but what made you share that, especially when you didn't know how many people you were actually going to reach?
Because people talk about mental health all the time. I think we're in the place where the stigma of saying, I have depression, I have anxiety, we're past that. A lot of people feel comfortable saying it. Now, what do? What is the action to doing that? As soon as I said, especially back then, I went to the hospital and did inpatient therapy, people's eyebrows started raising, and it was like, whoa, what's wrong with her? We have to get rid of that. Just like when people go to drug or alcohol rehabilitation, I'd love to say, well, good for them, because that's what we say when they go to drug or alcohol rehab. Let's say good for them when people have to work on their brain.
I think this is, Ginger, congratulations and bravo for being so brave, because I think you are one of the few humans who's making issues around mental health, you're normalizing it so that people feel more comfortable talking about it and seeking help. And I know I follow you on social media. You're very open about how you've connected with people. What has been something that has struck you as, oh my gosh, I can't believe that, when you interact with folks who have read your book who are also challenged with issues around mental health?
After I wrote that first book, that's what really stuck out. I didn't intend to write a book on mental health. I was supposed to be writing a baby book, and all of a sudden I'm telling my deepest, darkest secrets, and realizing after that book published, the thousands of messages that I got that were thanking me profusely for this stranger that they don't know, but they saw something in my book, and a lot of them said, you saved my life. I realized that first book had some tools that I used to heal, but I realized in the process of writing the second book, there were big-time traumas in my life that I had not yet healed. So this is a book about digging into trauma, about healing, but most importantly, the hard work it takes to maintain healing. Because I always say this, but like physical health, you don't just go to the gym for 6 months, get a personal trainer, eat right, get in sick shape, and then you're like, okay, I'm good to go. Don't need to go there anymore. That's not how mental health works either. It's a lifelong journey. Right,
and it doesn't go away. And it really goes about this whole idea that words matter, and words matter coming from somebody like you. So like people who are at home and in the darkness can then look up and say, okay, there's someone who seems to have it all, right? This image of perfection, but there's so much behind just that front layer, and that's important, I think, for so many people not in our industry to see. But this new book, Ginger, A Little Closer to Home, what does the title actually mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's for everyone, because I think that mental health does not discriminate. The only thing that does discriminate is the access to treatment and care. And so I think, as a person who has made it through those darkest of times, it's my responsibility at this point to share as much as I can and get people what they can. Because how beautiful would it be if we could all have access to what I like to call a personal trainer for our brain, which is a therapist, and the right type of therapy. And that's what this book really gets into, and I hope can at least get people thinking and writing, which is the most important thing to do.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because you know, you mentioned therapy, and I think therapy, again, we're starting to lose that stigma that therapy is this bad thing. I grew up in a very Catholic Puerto Rican household where they were like, you don't have problems, and if you have problems, go talk to a priest. That was never going to happen. But it took me 3 therapists to get it right. I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing your experience. You know, how did you find a therapist? How were you able to do that therapy and maintain being a spouse and a mother, being in the spotlight of a morning television show, traveling the country? how did you do it? Did you write letters and say, oh my gosh, this is terrible? Did you talk to your therapist? Did you call him up? I always like to give viewers concrete information so that they can figure it out. And also I'm being selfish because I'm like, I got some unresolved tension that I need to work out. And calling my therapist isn't working anymore.
Well, we all do. Right, and that's the thing. So just like relationships, I think that there are therapists that fit us. And so I will tell you right now, I blew through 9 therapists before I found the right type. And there's a reason for that. They weren't all bad therapists, which of course there are bad therapists and good therapists, I think in general, like any profession. But there are therapists that fit, and most importantly, there are therapists that you're honest with. I wasn't honest with those first 9. I wasn't ready to be helped. And so you have to really be ready, and then you have to find the right one. And most importantly, you've got to get the right diagnosis. And that's why for me, after I went to the hospital, I got diagnosed with something totally different than what I had been for a decade. And when I got that diagnosis, I started something called DBT therapy, specific for borderline personality disorder, which sounds really scary because that's still like, well, that's not depression. It has some depression in it. But what is cool, what's best about borderline personality is you can work really hard like I have and grow out of it. And that's the joy and the sliver of sunshine that I hope people can see when they read this book.
Yeah, my goodness. And just so people at home are understanding, let me just throw a few stats at everybody from the National Alliance on Mental Health, because this is how serious it is. 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental illness each year. 1 in 6 U.S. youth ages 6 to 17, 6 years old, experience a mental health disorder each year. You know, Ginger, you discuss in the book topics like divorce, anorexia, sexual assault. What was the process like? Because some people don't want to revisit those things, right? What was the process like?
Right. So you don't have to ruminate over these traumas in your life, but what I had not done yet was process them at all. And so what I did in this book is I went back and I took those traumas and I said, I'm going to dig into what I like to think of it like a wound. When I would get one of those really deep wounds, I was very good at kicking a bunch of dirt in it and running as fast as I could to pretend it didn't happen. So 20 years later, in some cases, I had to go back, take all the dirt out, clean up the scab, get in there, and learn how to not do that with the next wound that happens. Because trauma is inevitable in our life, and that's why my trauma is not going to be your trauma, but the way that we heal and the way that we deal with them is important. You can't delete trauma out of your life, but what you can do is process it so that it doesn't cause your body and your mind stress till the end of time.
Right, and then that builds up over time, and then your physical body starts to break down, and then you're no good to anybody. We'd be remiss if we did not wish you a happy birthday today.
Ah, thank you. Thank you. It's a big week. I know. How fun.
It is a very big week.
And I got pizza.
You've got a personal chef making you pizza.
My
but I wanted to just say happy birthday, but also you dedicate the book to our very own and your very own husband, Ben Aaron, and we wanted to bring him in because he has...
Yes,
we want to bring
please come in. Ben, Rocco.
Not Rocco. No, I'm just kidding.
There he is.
Here we are. Happy birthday, my love.
So
Thank you.
You dedicated the book to him, and he wrote, oh my gosh, Rocco, I mean, this is, and a cauliflower.
A cauliflower head.
Everything about this.
Oh my goodness, that was so nice of you, Ginger.
Everything about this is wrong, is so wrong that it's right. But you dedicate the book to Ben.
Right.
Exactly. You dedicate the book to Ben, and then Ben wrote this post about you. He said, Ginger, she's my hero, plain and simple. In our home, we talk to our boys about superpowers quite often. How in real life, superpowers don't consist of shooting webs from your wrists or wielding a giant hammer. It's helping people or making someone laugh or inspiring them to be better. That's a real superhero. It's their mom, my wife.
Beautiful.
Well, there you have it. You have us all
And
in
superheroes
tears.
don't work alone. So there's my teammate.
Robin.
He's my Batman.
Robin.
I was gonna,
No, I'll take Robin.
Robin.
all right.
Oh my gosh. Well, Rocco, how awkward do you feel? And what superhero are you?
He's the British butler. Little mask.
Exactly.
Alfred. He's Alfred.
Alfred, exactly.
That's suitable
right.
for me. That's good.
Ginger, we love you. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sharing your story in this important book.
Thank you.
Not everybody can say they're a national New York Times
best-selling author. The book is called A Little Closer to Home. It's available now where books are sold. She also voiced the audio version of this book. Have a wonderful, wonderful pizza party for your birthday.
Thank you. The pizza party's on. I actually wondered who tooted until I realized I was holding
the cauliflower.
But...
Or we always blame Rocco. If you smell a toot, it's always Rocco.
It's always
All right. We'll see you guys.